So we are live on the Spar Scene MMA podcast with an interview today. So joining us in the studio, the multi-million-dollar studio, folks, we have Trukon Carson. He's going to be fighting this weekend at Fight For It 18, or so we thought. Fill us in on this last-minute development that happened. We're here with the Carolina Game Dog. Fill us in.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been prepping for this really big MMA fight with Tanner Saraceno. It was going to be my first MMA fight since 2019 after my second pro win. And since then, you know, I stepped away from the game for a while and delved into the world of bare knuckle. And I just decided to come back, and I really wanted to like burst back on the scene and really make a big statement and put myself back on the MMA map. And so we tried to set this title fight up with Saraceno because he's, like arguably the best guy in the region. And yeah, just everything was going smooth. But, for some reason, I just felt like he might pull out. And I had, a coach of mine say that, and another teammate of mine mentioned something about him pulling out of fights. And sure enough, I got word from the promoter last night that he was sick, apparently. And and then today he pulled out. And so we're searching to find a new opponent for me right now, and talking to some different promoters on the Southeast, like in the Southeast region, one up in Tennessee that we're trying to pull something together with right now in regards to finding somebody last second. But no definite word on an opponent. We were in talks with Cub Hawkins, who's he just won the Police Gazette bare knuckle belt the other weekend, and we're just waiting to hear from people.
Is this the first time you've dealt with something like this where your opponent has pulled out?
No, man. Honestly, it really throws me back to when I stepped away from MMA. I was having a really hard time finding anybody to fight me. And I had contemplated like coming back in the past few years since I stepped away in 2019. And every single time, man, I just can't get anybody around here to want to fight me and step up to the plate. I tried to do kickboxing matches, Muay Thai fights. Nobody can match me. I've hit up people over in Georgia, all over the place, man. And it's just like, there's a lot of pussies in MMA. I'll just be honest.
So they're scared to fight you is what you're saying?
Yeah, man. These guys, they don't want to step up to a real test and like really face like a truly dangerous fighter. Like, I'm not a guy who's just going to come out there and pitter pat with you and try to win by points. Like, I'm coming out there to end you and put on a great performance for the fans. And, when guys start looking through my Tapology, I don't have like 100 fights or anything, but when you look at my film and everything, what you see is someone who's going to come out there to destroy you. And I have a lot of finishes, a lot of first round finishes to be exact. And guys don't want to face that shit. They talk tough and act like they do. But, I have a hard time finding opponents. And my younger brother, Paul Carson, he has a hard time finding opponents too. He's been sitting on the shelf for a while because these guys just don't want to step up. To get a fight on his last one, he had to pay the guy his purse to just get a decent opponent to show up. And it's different when you get in like the UFC and the top level organizations. Then it's kind of like, these guys for the most part will fight anybody that gets put in front of them. But on the regional scene, it's rough, man.
It kind of brings to mind that image of boxing where they were always afraid that their standing is going to be ruined by their undefeated record going away. Yeah. So you look at guys that have just crushed cans, and a lot of people have been crushing cans.
And that's why boxing is dead. Right now boxing is in a bad place overall. There's still some great fighters left, but it's degraded a lot because of just like the corruption and the BS fighters. And that's kind of why I was sticking around bare knuckle there for a bit, because it's not that hard to get real savages that want to step up to the plate, even if they know they're in for a wild fight. These guys, they love to fight. If you fight in bare knuckle, you gotta love to fight. But
Where'd you get that? I was like, where'd you get the attitude from of like wanting to do bare knuckle and just be like a dog and go against another dog who wants to take your head off just as much as you want to take their head off? Like, where'd that attitude come from?
I mean, honestly, with bare knuckle, you know, I've always been like a different kind of fighter in that regard. But like in terms of like actually getting into bare knuckle, it was just something that kind of happened. You know, I was at like a really bad place in my life a few years back, and I just needed something to do to just like give me something to like focus on, to like live for. And the bare knuckle tryouts were up in Belfast, New York at the Bare Knuckle Hall of Fame. And so I flew up there and just went to the tryouts and just went on a little adventure. And it ended up like I went out there and tried out, and I definitely caught the attention of the people, but it seemed like they were trying to just round up a bunch of fighters and get them to sign to these managers and stuff, and then have those managers match them. And I was just like, I don't know or trust any of these managers, so I'm not just going to like sign my life away to these guys. So I came home and sat on the shelf for a while, and then my ex-girlfriend actually got me into BKFC, and then I got matched up with Ryanell Riley and had that crazy ass fight. And unfortunately the doctor stopped it. But I mean, that shit just like showed me something. Like I always knew I had certain things, but there was just like something that fight showed me about myself that I didn't always know was there until I like saw it myself. And I just realized like, man, I'm literally like one of those guys that just can be unbreakable out there. And it really like lit a fire under me to like come back and get a win. And I really dialed in on my boxing training and started to like break down the actual like bare knuckle game, and got back in there and have gotten like 2 back-to-back first round KOs. Both like one was a little over a minute and the last one was literally like a minute. And yeah, so it was just, I don't know. It just happened and I fell in love with it.
And that leads us actually into a follow-up about that. We were checking out some of your old interviews. I think it might have been a post-fight from BKFC. And you had an interesting comment. I think the interviewer had said, you know, what was different about preparing for this versus MMA? And you had a wonderful comeback. You said, well, I'm learning not to throw those MMA punches anymore. And that's one of the biggest things we see. Like Sean Strickland's doing well by throwing straight punches. He's actually getting people with a jab. What was different about that?
I mean, it's just I never realized, like, you know, coming up in MMA, like I was always like an MMA based guy, and I didn't necessarily have the deepest appreciation for like the craft of boxing and just the real punching mechanics of like high level boxing. And a lot of guys in MMA don't really have a big understanding of that. It's a very like kickboxing in general. It can be a very like front foot heavy style. And in MMA, you see guys throw a lot of like arm punches, and they're just sloppy and don't have great technique. And it's like, but when you really like dial in those boxing skills and you learn how to like transfer your weight and use your body mechanics, like punching from the floor up through the hips, and like you using proper mechanics, makes a huge difference. And you go from like, you know, piecing dudes up to straight, like you can punch a hole in a guy's face, you know, and you hit a guy like that. And, you know, most humans can't take punches like that, you know, over and over and over again. So it made a huge difference. Like my first bare knuckle fight, it was more of like just, you know, last second, try to piece together like a bare knuckle camp in an MMA gym. And then my fights after that were like very boxing focused. Like I was working with Kelvin Seabrooks, a former IBF champion. And then for my last one, got with my coach, Jesse Bercia at Bone Breaker Gym. And I mean, it's just been straight boxing, been going with other high level boxers, like national and Olympic level guys, sparring and just figuring out the sweet science, you know, and it's made a huge difference in my whole game. And then coming back to MMA and integrating that style back into my kickboxing and MMA style, it's, you know, done wonders for me.
I like it. I like it. Is there any boxers out there that you feel like you kind of emulate or look up to movement wise, or anybody you see out there you're like, I like what he does?
I mean, honestly, I feel like I have my own style, and you know, I can't really say that I can't really make a claim to these guys' greatness, but my favorite is Joe Louis, man. I love watching Joe Louis's punching style and just trying to emulate that style as best I can in bare knuckle. You know, I'm still very much a student of the game in boxing, and I don't consider myself near that level of mastery, but I do try to, like, if you ever watch Joe Louis and just the way he like chambers his punches, his footwork, and just his overall body mechanics, like he's one of the most devastating punchers in boxing history and one of the greatest of all time. And that's probably like my favorite boxer of all time.
You like getting him out of there early, I can tell.
Yeah. I'm not trying to fight 5 rounds. I'm trying to knock dudes out and just give the fans the bloodbath that they want.
Well, what you're probably like one of the toughest fighters we've talked to and I've talked to. So what's it like to like walk in the ring knowing you don't have any glove protection? You know you're about to go bare knuckle boxing. Like, what does that feel like? Like, what's the rush you get, like just walking to the ring, and then when you're in the ring, like what does that feel like?
It's like, honestly, it varies, man. Like it can be just like, you can feel fun sometimes, and then sometimes it can feel like just very just very numb and in the moment, and then other times there can be like the edge of nerves and stuff, but really I just try to, like, stay as present as possible and just like take it all in, and then once the fight starts, I just dial right in. But like walking out, I just like to take in the energy of the crowd and stuff, and just little things for me. Like I remember in my last fight, I felt like an edge of nerves for that fight when I was warming up and stuff, and then you see guys coming back after their fights and they're just like busted all up, and you're just like, it's counting down to you, and there's no way out but through it. And I remember walking down the aisle, and I'd like taken my shirt off and stuff before I got in the ring, and there was like this lady like screaming out in the crowd and just going nuts and wanted me to like throw my shirt to her. And I just like threw her my shirt and gave her a thumbs up. And it was like just that little moment of connection with this random lady, though. It made me feel like so much better overall and just helped me like relax. And then I just thought, like, my family and all the people I love, they're out there in the crowd and they're all here with me. And I have to like show up and just throw the fuck down for these people that I love and all the fans here, and that makes it easy, and I really enjoy it, and I love like the rush of bare knuckle. It's an adrenaline high like no other in combat sports, and I realized that after my first one. I going into it, heard so many people in the fight community like talking trash about it, like it's bum fights and all this, and I got in there and did it, and I was like, this is some next level shit, y'all. You have to try this. Like,
I don't want to try it, but I enjoy watching it.
I'll watch it. Yeah. Well, I heard speaking of the fans, I saw in one of the interviews, like I heard like a ton of the fans were getting photos with you, and you were like a fan favorite.
Yeah, man, the fans in bare knuckle, they really took well to me and loved me, and I love them. I never expected that. Like, it was the first time I've ever experienced something like that. Because after my first fight, I was like so devastated that they stopped it. And I just literally like left the arena and went back to the hotel room. And I was really busted up and in a lot of pain after that one. But then after my second one, when I knocked out LJ Hermerick, I remember walking out into the arena to try to find my brother and his fiance. And I walk out onto the main floor and I just hear the crowd like erupt in cheers. And I like looked up to the ring, like, what's going on? And there was like no one fighting in there. And I'm like, what are they cheering for? And my buddy that was with me is like, dude, they're cheering for you. And I looked up and like half the arena is giving me like a standing ovation and just going nuts. And I was like, I mean, they just made me feel like a star. And like literally like 30 people were like lined up down the bleachers getting pictures and autographs, and all the little kids and stuff. And like, it really was a huge eye opener for me. It puts things into perspective. Like, there's people that are like watching you and inspired by you and looking up to you. So you really want to like, you know, just give your best each day, give your best to the fans, and make sure you like, you know, represent the right things, because people are watching you and like kids are watching you and stuff like that.
I noticed one thing, that there's a negative connotation where people would say that, like, oh, it's a downgrade to go to that organization to go here. It reminds me of when, you know, see a fighter like Benson Henderson left UFC, went to Bellator. His first fight, it was not an easy fight. He lost. And you realize, oh, there's world-class guys everywhere. You just don't know it.
Yes, I feel like when bare knuckle first started like coming up on the scene, that was the thing. It was like guys that I knew personally were just, you know, screaming, it's bum fights and these guys suck and you shouldn't even do it. Some promotions, they won't even want you to fight for them if they know you do that stuff. And then you go out there and come to find out they're some of the best fighters in the world in BKFC, and not just like toughness and grit and heart. I'm talking like pure skills. Like these guys are like some world-class boxers. Like you watch guys like Bryce Henry or Connor Tierney or Palomino or just any of the greats, my boy Tony Soto. You watch those guys and you tell me that they're bums or that they don't have a world-class skill set. You know, if you think that, you're lying to yourself.
Just ask Rockhold.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, there you go.
He didn't even last a round.
One of the greatest, arguably one of the greatest MMA fighters to do it. You know, a multi promotional champion, UFC world champion. He was the #1 guy at one point, and he got folded up and around, got his teeth broken out and everything by a guy who's just built for that sport. You know, it's different. You know, it takes a different kind of fighter to go in there and thrive in that.
Yeah. Just a quick question outside of fighting. So, like, say that when this fight's over with this weekend, like, what are some things like you want to do that you're looking forward to outside of like training and getting ready for the fights?
Honestly, man, I've had a lot going on, but you know, I'm looking forward to like the spring coming and just, you know, the good weather, enjoying doing some training and traveling and whatever cool opportunities are coming. I actually just scored a little side job. I'm going to start going up and working a bit with Tom Garner, who's like the greatest game bred pit bull breeder in the world right now, and one of the greatest pit bull dogmen of all time. And I love the pit bulls, man. And they're dogs that have made a huge positive impact on my life. And I'm really looking forward to working with Tom starting in the next couple weeks and just learning as much as I can about just training and nutrition, breeding, all that stuff. So that's kind of a cool thing I'm looking forward to. But other than that, just, you know, enjoying life, enjoying time with my family and friends, the usual.
Right.
Yeah. So what would you say?
Dogs?
Like,
not right now. I actually fostered off my last red-nosed pit to some people before my fight against Hermrick at the beginning of last year, and I haven't had one since. Just I haven't really had the time, and I don't want to. I plan to get like a new puppy later in this year, but I just didn't want to have one and not be able to like devote all the time and attention to like giving it just the best exercise and stimulation that it needs every day. And I've been on the road working a lot. I've been cutting concrete for a while. I just left that job. So I just wanted to wait until I had a more stable schedule, because it's like having a kid. You know, you don't want to have a dog and have to be sending them off to the kennel to be boarded and stuff like that, or it just have to, you know, hang out and you not be there to like give it what it deserves.
So let's say they find an opponent this Saturday. You get an easy win, get a knockout. What's next for Trukon Carson in his MMA career? What are you looking forward to?
Well, it just depends, man. You know, I'm open for all kinds of stuff. You know, I'm either gonna look to get another big MMA fight lined up for a different promotion, or like line up a title defense with Fight for It and just keep trying to build on that. And then if BKFC, wants to come with a reasonable offer for me, I would be open to do that too, because truthfully, I love BKFC and, I love the promotion. It's a great promotion. They've been great to me overall, but it's like, at that point, I'm fighting at the peak of, the pinnacle of the sport of bare knuckle boxing. It's the biggest, best promotion for that in the world. And, I'm getting some big offers for fights, but, the purses just aren't really there. And I won't disclose specifics or anything. And I have no like disparaging comments to make towards bare knuckle or anything. Like I said, I have the utmost love and respect for the organization, the people running it, and I appreciate them. But it's like, these are very high risk fights now, and I'm getting offered to fight like former champions and top contenders in my division and stuff. So I'm like right there about to kick down the door for like a title fight, and I'm just like, hey, I'm out here, I got to pay my bills and stuff like that, and I'm not rich or anything. I'm doing better than some people, but I'm by no means like well off or anything. I have to bust my ass to make it, and I can't be taking these fights where I risk my life and breaking my hands, losing my teeth, getting my eye socket broken and stuff like that by some of the best bare knuckle boxers in the entire world, and then walk away from it with empty pockets as well. And so I just hope that maybe they could work with me on that stuff, and that we can make something happen, because I feel like it would really be a shame for me to have to like, just walk away from that. But, we'll see what happens. I'm open for whatever, and I have a lot of options. So, it's all good on my end either way it goes. Like I'm going to make some shit shake, no matter what I have to do.
Yeah. Well, not only do you have the talent and the toughness, but you have a very likable personality, and obviously the fans love you. So I feel like you have that in your advantage as well.
Yeah, man. I hope that they'll really want to have me back. I'm not trying to ask these people to like just break the bank for me or anything like that. But if you can write Mike Perry a check for over $1 million, like you can write me a check for like 30 grand, and that would like change my life, starting to move into getting checks like that, and it would be like change for them. So I just know what I deserve as a fighter, and I'm not one of those guys that's ever going to come out there and like put on some snooze fest of a fight or just roll out and quit. Like I'm going to go out there and lay my life on the line, and whatever happens, like I'm going to bring it, and the fans are going to be happy. And, I realize like I'm not some huge household name like Mike Perry or Alvarez or whoever, legendary MMA fighter that's come over, but they can build me into a very prominent fighter. And anytime I'm out there, like I always am a fan favorite. So, I just want them to like value me and really want to like work with me. And, I feel like they want to build me in certain ways, but it's like, I just would like to get a decent paycheck if I'm going to fight the former world champion at welterweight or something like that. That's not an easy fight. That's a very difficult, dangerous fight against a guy who's going to be very skilled and very tough. And there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to just get him out of there in one round. It's like I might have to go the distance with a guy like that and fight tooth and nail. And with that comes the risk of like breaking my hands badly or whatever could happen, and I just want to make sure that if something like that were to happen, that I'm going to be taken care of to some degree,
You think about Jason Knight and Artem Lobov, the way they looked at the end of that, and it's like that is the possibility for anybody.
Yeah. Even with my fight with Ryan Riley, man, like my face until I got home and healed and stuff, I was like unrecognizable. My whole head was like swollen up, like my eyes were swollen shut. My jaw was so stiff, I couldn't even eat like a French fry hardly. And my hands were swollen up to where I couldn't like clench my fists. I was up in my hotel room pissing out blood, and like, it could have been worse. Thankfully, just by fate or just bone density or whatever, I didn't have any fractures or anything like that. But I mean, there's so many guys that debut, not just in BKFC, but I've seen it. I've gone to the BYB fights and I've seen a guy with his freaking tarsal snap through his hand, like on oxygen, throwing up in a bucket and stuff, going into shock about. And like, I've seen so many guys debut, and it's like, I broke both my hands in the first round and just toughed it out. And I'm like, well, damn, you got to get surgery after that. You're going to have surgery, and you're going to have to take time to recover. And I've seen guys that have broken their hands and it just didn't heal right. And that could be a reoccurring injury, and you never know what can happen in fighting. So it's like, I'm just thinking of myself as like a business model, and I want to look out for my best interest. I'm still young in my career, and I don't want to just like destroy myself and then not get anything, substantial out of it. I want to be able to make a living off this, and gain some stability in fighting. And, I'm working on all that stuff. I'm starting to work on trying to like build my social media presence a little bit more and work on getting some decent sponsorship opportunities and all this. And I'm confident that it can come together, but I just really want to make the moves that are in my best interest as a fighter. I'm not one of these guys that's ducking and dodging people or pulling out of fights or whatever. I'm a real fighter, but with that, I just know my worth, and I want my, what I deserve out of it. After going out there and showing out multiple times, I think I've proven that, I'm not a waste of money for these guys.
And I know our big wish is that we get to see you this weekend, and also that you get to train full time and get to that point. And we really appreciate you coming on the show just to give us a little look into your life and your process. Is there anything that you want to leave the fans with before we adjourn?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say thank you to you guys for having me on. I really enjoyed coming on here and having a great talk with y'all. And thank you to all the fans for tuning in, and for everyone's support. And, I really hope we can find a replacement this weekend so I can go out there and entertain you guys and do what I love to do. And I will be at the fights either way it goes, but I'm hoping that I'll be in there shining in that main event and winning that belt at the end of it.
Let's go. I hope so too. Make sure to go ahead, Brady. Anything else you want to say?
No, that's it. We look forward to seeing you Saturday, man. We'll come out to you if we see you.
Absolutely, man. I'll come say what's up to you guys, and we can grab a drink or something.
Oh yeah,
for sure,
Let's
man.
Go.
Yeah, make sure to check. We're tag your socials, so make sure to check out Trukon's socials on in the link in the bio. And then if you want to check out Fight for It 18 this weekend, this Saturday, we'll see what happens. See if he gets a fight or not. Appreciate it, Truckin.
Yeah, appreciate
Take
you
it
guys.
easy, my man.